Hello everyone, this is Dr. Purnima, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Vasant Kanya Mahavidyalaya, and it is a college admitted to the privileges of Banaras Hindu University. And we are on week 1, module 1 of the Swayam lecture, Postmodern Art and Literature, Theory and Practice, and we have moved on from understanding postmodernism to defining postmodernism. So when we understand postmodernism, we have to understand that from where did the term postmodern start. So there are three basic dimensions of postmodernism that I have considered. First is historical, second is theoretical, and third is cultural. So historical postmodernism is the easiest to understand because it is the time after the Second World War. So around 1960s, the historical postmodernism started. So if we have to trace the history of postmodernism, so from 1960s to the contemporary times, postmodernism has continued. Then there is the theoretical postmodernism. So many theories came up, in which primarily Lyotard's theories, Baudrillard's theories, and the theory of Jameson became very popular as theoretical postmodernism. And then there was a cultural aspect of postmodernism. So it was, what is culture? When we discuss culture, there are so many things. It is art, it is literature, it is linguistics, but what kind of culture was cultural postmodernism? Basically, it was a pluralistic culture, it was multiculturalism, because it is a global times. All the countries are shedding their boundaries, and what you will see that people are merging, there is hybridity, there is mimicry. And what is happening? People are copying the dominant culture, but they're also mixing it with their own cultures. And that is also happening with the world culture. So a new kind of world culture was evolving, where all the people of the world were mixing, the cuisines were mixing. So these new brand stores are coming up, new food stores are coming up. So people in India are eating Italian food or Chinese or Mexican food, the way we are dressing up. So nothing in its form is pure in the postmodern cultural theory. So what is happening? There is a mixing and pluralistic culture. So again, the biggest question that Frederick Jameson puts before us, that how do you look at postmodernism? Is it a break or is it a continuity? So multiple genealogies are coming up. Naturally, if there are multiple things, diverse theories, diverse ideologies, diverse kind of art, diverse kind of literatures, they're all coming up and they're mixing into one stream. So it is both a break from modernism, but it is not discontinuous. It is also a continuity of modernism. So certain aspects like newer forms of expressionism or abstract expressionism continues in the postmodern time. Then there is neologism. What is neologism? So when we understand linguistics, what was earlier happening? There were structuralist theories. So we had Saussure. And what was Saussure talking about? He was talking about sign, signifier and signified. So there was symbolic meaning of words. Every word had a meaning, symbolic meaning. But neologists, they were deconstructing meaning. So there was multiple meanings or meaning of meanings, or absolute loss of meaning was also happening in deconstruction, where meaning was also deferred. So the whole concept of Derrida's difference, that you can never reach the actual meaning of the word, or there is a lack of meaning or loss of meaning, and there is a continuous aporia. So that was neologism. And see what happens to meaning of a word. Word changes its form. So the meaning that was prevalent in ancient times may not be the meaning today. So that is also what deconstruction brought. And this was also affecting the kind of language people were using in the postmodern time and in theory also. So it is again a new kind of linguistic science and signifier were questioned. Then it was a rise of media society. Now we have so many medias, and instead of mainstream media, we have all these new kinds of video media, and you have various platforms that are sharing media. So there was a lot of rise of media. Various news channels were coming up, and people were feeding on news because people wanted to know more and more about the world. So that led to the development of a media society. Then it was a time of brands. See, multinational companies are rising. So what they are doing, they are marketing and they are advertising, because what they have to do, they have to increase their profit. Capitalism and postmodernism go hand in hand. So profit maximization is their primarily their motive. So there is marketing and there is a lot of advertising. You will see the billboards, signboards all coming up. So that is how postmodernism and capitalism were redefining themselves. And then this is what Raymond Williams would call it. It is a structure of feeling. So how we are feeling our emotions, how we are expressing our emotions also changed in the postmodern time. So we will now again come back to Frederick Jameson, because he wrote a book called Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism. So what is late capitalism? See, capitalism is something that started in modern times. So what Frederick Jameson looked as postmodern condition is late capitalism. So late capitalism was full of multinational capitalism. We have talked about multinational companies. So you can see that there are Domino's or Pizza Hut or things like that. Global chains are coming up. So that is multinational capitalism. A capitalist economy, there is no closed borders. All countries are buying and selling goods, and they're also opening brand stores. All the fashion stores are coming up throughout the world. So it was a capitalism that was not trying to capture one single country, but they were moving across countries to share it. Then there was a spectacle or image society. So people wanted to see more. Instead of whatever you have to do, you have, like now we also circulate images, media, multimedia messages. So what it was a rise of spectacle or image society. Again, we were talking about the signboards and the billboards. So they became so important. The brand image, see how the brand were endorsed. So you will associate things with people. So Marilyn Monroe became very important. And that is what happened to the celebrities. A celebrity culture rose because people were depending a lot on what they saw. So it was all about showing too much. And then it was about media capitalism. What is media capitalism? See, media houses are owned by big companies. So media is no longer something that is it is just giving you the news. But it is also governed by certain people. They are also making money out of it. So media should not only provide you news, but they also want to make profit out of it. So that's why you will see that there is a lot of sensationalization of the news that we are getting. Why? Because they want more viewership and they want to make money out of it. So this was also a time of rise of media capitalism, and it was also the new world system. See, the old order, when it falls, new order has to be formed. So it is also a time that is the end of colonialism. So what the colonialism is also kind of reimagining itself, and new world system is forming. So there is the rise of UN, the WHO, all the national organization, G8, G20, they are coming up because a new world order is being forming. So when colonization ends, how will the world run? So there is these all groups are formed for the new world system. And then there is the Frankfurt School. Frankfurt School of scholars were also questioning Marx, that Marx has simplified it too much, the class consciousness, that there are the bourgeois and there are the proletariat. But there is a dialectical materialism. Everything is changing, everything is transforming, and it cannot be same. So, and there is also a movement that was overlooked by Marx. So that is what the Frankfurt School were talking about. They were talking about environment, and they were also talking about other aspects that was missed by Marx. And this is what late capitalism has to. Then we talk about residual modernism or return of the repressed. Why are we calling it residual modernism? Because modernism is something that remained in postmodernism. So traces of modernism could be still found in postmodernism. What it is actually? It is a systematic modification of capitalism. So capitalism has not ended. What it is doing, Fordism came up, commodification came up, commodity fetishism came up. See how capitalism is redefining it. Every day new technologies are coming up. Every day people are making new and newer changes, and everything is happening. So why it is happening? Because capitalism has to stay, but it is transforming itself, it is transmogrifying itself. Every day they are innovating, inventing, so that people keep on buying the goods. Then there was also utopia. Modernism believed in a kind of utopia. They believed that there will be something, there will be idealism and people will be happy. But some kind of utopia remained in postmodernism. People want to, there is a dystopic vision. People know that everything is going to fail, but still they are looking for some kind of utopia, that everything will be good and everything will be ideal. And that is how the survival of modern, like we were talking about James Joyce and we were talking about Duchamp. So why they are popular in the postmodern time, or why their styles are still being copied in the postmodern films and art and literature, is because they have somehow survived, and that's why you cannot do away with. And there is also nostalgia, looking towards the past. It is there in film, it is in art, and it is in literature. So what they are doing, they are copying the styles of modernism in postmodern. And then there is the irony. Irony was very well used in modern times. So it is also used in, very nicely used in the postmodern times by writers like Venturi and Deman. So when we try to understand capitalism, we start understand it in the terms of Weber and Grossman and Pollack. And it is also known as the rise of yuppies. So who are actually yuppies? This is the new modern class and postmodern class actually. And they are these people who are middle class people, but they are very fashionable. So they are very, they will buy goods and they will show off goods. So this kind of consumer culture is the rise of the new modern class, which is very fashionable. Like I would give an example, like people are using all the Apple phones. So why? They are just doing to show that they are very fashionable. So it's not about the people who actually are using it, but it's about the people that who are using it for pretentious purposes or to show off. Then what happens in the Weberian kind of capitalism? There is a tendential bureaucratic control. So bureaucracy will always see how what Foucault called about power, that power tries to dominate. So there is this tendency of bureaucracy to have power in them. So they try to control it. And then there is state capitalism. So what does the state do? State tries to control capitalism. So what the government is also involved in capitalism, or the capitalists, they invest in government because the capitalists will also have their own greed and profit maximization in their mind. So what they will do to the government? They will tell the government, they will have bondings with the government, and how the government will make their plans and how the government will implement their plans that will benefit the rich and the capitalists. So that state capitalism is again also a crisis in postmodernism and also an aspect of postmodernism. Then there is monopolistic capitalism. We believe that in capitalism everyone gets the fair chance, but it actually doesn't happen. What happens actually in capitalism? It becomes monopolistic. Like there are few big companies. Like if you were talking about buying something, you have either Flipkart or Amazon, and the smaller companies, they are unable to survive themselves. So monopolistic capitalism is the only form of capitalism that we see today, and we fail to realize that. We think that we have various brands available for us, but the smaller companies cannot survive because the larger companies, they have so much money that they won't allow any small player, or the big companies will buy the small players. So this is how monopolistic capitalism stays on, and we as consumers hardly have any choice in monopolistic capitalism. It is also a crisis of traditional labor. See, new forms of you see new machines are coming up. So what happens to the traditional labor? They are outdated and they are replaced. They are replaceable by machines. And this is again, this will happen with every new technology. Certain kinds of skill and certain kinds of labor will become outdated, and such people, that's why we see a crisis. People are losing jobs because whatever technology or whatever skills they were carrying are no longer useful in the present time. So either you have to keep learning new skills or you will lack your job. So you will see that a lot of people are being fired from their jobs. Why? Because this is again a crisis of traditional labor. Then there is a lot of automation and automatization. So a lot of machines are coming up, and what actually it was defined that it will make the human labor easier, but what it is actually doing, it is making job availability very less. And then it is also gentrification. So everything is generalized, so individual somehow loses his place. He was very important in the modern time, but gentrification has taken away the individuality of people. So what we are actually at the time, what Aclio Benito Olivia calls, he is an Italian writer, and he talks about trans avant-garde. So what is trans avant-garde? Avant-garde, the new things that were coming up in modernism. So we have even gone forward from avant-garde, and we have moved into a time of trans avant-garde. So it is a time of novo Roma, and I think this is the last significant innovation in the novel. And see how it is working. New configuration of fine arts, whatever arts are coming are used in the new novel, and this is what makes it most prominent feature of postmodernism. And videos are also one of the most distinctive new medium that came up. So new novel and new videos, I think this is what actually Benito Olivia meant by trans avant-garde. So now when we look at the various aspects of capitalism, we see that there is consumerism. So we are all buying and buying products, and this all sales that are coming up, Black Friday sales, or even in Amazon, Flipkart, big billion day sales. Why? Because people, they are, see, earlier the whole theory of economics was that people, there will be demand and then there will be supply. Now it is vice versa. There is supply, all the goods are created, and then they are propelling people by marketing and brand advertisements that you buy more and more products. So we are all somehow influenced by consumerism. All the ad services, even Google ad services, wherever you go, you find that you are filled with so many advertisements. So that is how it is increasing the consumer culture. Then naturally capitalism, there is no way out of capitalism. The countries which were talking about socialism, the countries which were talking about equality, equity, all those things are not there. Only profit maximization remains. So capitalism is the only form of economy that is remaining. And it is also a time of mass culture. So everyone is following. See, there is no individual thing. So everyone is following whatever trend comes up, everyone starts following it. So this is mass culture, a Ghibli trend. Everyone today is following that trend. Why? Because you don't have your own choices. Whatever is trending, you feel outdated. If you don't do what is happening today, you feel that you have lost something. And this is the postmodern critique of capitalism, that we blindly follow mass culture, media culture. And earlier we were discussing about post-truth. So this is the time of post-truth. So even fake news are circulated and people take it to be the real truth. And then it is a time of urban squalor. See, urban people are moving from rural backgrounds to urban backgrounds. Why? Because there is a lack of jobs in rural areas, lack of facilities in the rural areas. So everyone is moving. There is a migration happening from rural areas to urban areas. Now, urban spaces are limited. So what happens? It leads to the rise of slums, and it leads to the rise of urban squalor. So everything becomes very difficult. Living conditions in urban areas become very difficult, and people, especially working class, is forced to live in very inhuman conditions. Then there is commodification. What is commodification? See, everything is commodified, everything is there to sell. Even the body images of people are commodified, because commodification is Even art becomes a commodity. Everything, how you judge a thing, by its price tag. So value of thing is the price value of the thing. So essential value of nothing remains, and everything is only attached by how the amount, the price it can buy, or the price at which you can buy it or you can sell it. So these are also the critiques of postmodernism, that why are we blindly following consumer culture, why are we blindly following capitalism, why are we blindly following commodification, media culture, or why is there this rapid urbanization where people are forced to live in very difficult circumstances. So and why this is happening is because of the impact of world war. See, what when World War happened, what happened? That it was a post-World War economy. Everyone, there was lack of food. There was economies were depreciating. So there was emergence of new economic world system, and there was reorganizing of international relations, and also there was decolonizing of the colonies. But what they led to was that most of the systems they couldn't survive, and only system that survived in the present times was capitalism. So it is also a kind of ideological postmodernism which led to skepticism. So people were very skeptical, they were not happy, and they had suspicion about everything. Even reason was being questioned, realism was being questioned, and there was a rise of some kind of subjectivism where individuality is also being questioned, and there was relativism. The comparisons were also being made. So ideological postmodernism was rising with all these various forms of thought processes that were coming up. So we were discussing the impact of World War. Especially, see, when we talk about World War, the two World Wars are both very important: the First World War and the Second World War. But what Second World War taught the world was very important, that we have made mistakes by causing a world war. See, every time when we look around us, wars are happening. In Egypt, it is happening. It is happening in Syria. It is happening in Iraq, Iran. It is happening in Israel and Palestine. In India, China also there is war-like situation. In India, Pakistan, there were war-like situations. So even after the two great wars, world wars, the wars remained. But somehow the countries refrained from a world war. See, Russia-Ukraine war happened, and North Atlantic Treaty Organization or NATO remained silent. Why did NATO remain silent? That again is a question. Because the impact of World War was so great. What happened to Hiroshima? What happened to Nagasaki? That made people question international relations, and there was a need to reorganize international relations, because if there is no peace, people around the world will be doomed. Because after the wars, what happened? There was scarcity of food, and people lost their lives, and there was so much, see, anxiety and depression of the age. When we were talking about paranoia and schizophrenia of an age, why is the entire age, why are generations of people being paranoid or schizophrenic? Because it is the impact of the wars, and people will cry. So now when we live in a world, even when there are wars, the countries refrain to be polarized, they refrain from taking sides, and they let countries solve their matters. Because if there will be a polarization, and if there will be a world war like situation, things will be very devastating, because now the countries are full with nuclear weapons. And that's why there was also the thought that there should be some central agency of the world. So global, there should be something, everything should be global. So there should be a global organization. So you had United Nations for that. Why World Health Organization came up? Because they felt that there was a need for a central body in the world that can control the world in a way, in a more peaceful way. There are also agendas and propagandas of the richer countries that prevail there, but yes, there was a very rapid reorganization of international relations after the world wars. Then what was happening? See, in 1947, India got independence. So most of the colonies from 1940s to 1950s, they got their independence. So the Europocentric world that was there, it was also, it is not just that it is a mental attitude or it is a theoretical attitude. but it is empirical. Empirically, also, these countries were decolonized. They were establishing themselves as the nation, and their voices cannot be ignored. See, third world countries, they are also now becoming part. They are holding important positions. Why G8 was became into G20? Because the impact of all these smaller nations are now felt very strongly. So decolonizing the colonies also gave them voice, and this is a very great impact of the World War. That the countries which were suppressed for such a long time, they got their independence. And yes, some form neo imperialism stayed, and in some forms again all the money was Europocentric and Americanocentric. So that thing is there, but still the colonies are free now. At least they have the freedom of speech and they can talk about their own concerns. And then it was a post World War economy. See, economy failed, and people now realize that you cannot just go into war to prove your supremacy. The countries are ready to revolt. Everyone wants their autonomy. So, post World War economy also made people rethink about how the world will go on. And that's why there was an emergence of a new economic world system. So now all the power, now it is no longer about the hard power, it is more about the soft power. Or as in the words of Adorno, it is more about the cultural industry. Why it is a rise of cultural industry? Because you have a new economic world system. So if you have to have control, the control is not through repression. The control is to some extent ideological, but mostly the control is economy. So it is through the IMF, the monetary funds. Such organizations have the great control over how the world behaves. So it is financially that the control has changed, and it has led to the new economic world system. Ideological postmodernism. So, what is ideological postmodernism? We know the term ideology. So, ideas, attitudes, all these things are used to understand postmodernism, the belief systems. So, what kind of belief system is postmodernism propagating? It is naturally propagating skepticism and suspicion of reason. Because whatever is happening, see, when you see the squalor, urban squalor, and you see that how fraudulent activities are happening, or if you see that nothing, there can be fake news, so you constantly question everything, you constantly doubt everything. And that skepticism is also reflected in art and literature of the time. And then there is the suspicion of reason, there is also suspicion of whatever is happening, why it is happening. So you doubt everything, you question everything. And then there is also subjectivism. So you everything is subjective, everything is in reference to something, and objective reality is questioned because realism is questioned. It is also that you are also questioning the truth. So you have new perspectives. So new perspectives and varied perspectives will lead to subjectivism, where you will see things from various angles. And there will also be relativism, because you know Einstein gave the theory of relativity. And what is relativity? Everything is related to something else. So nothing exists on its own. And how you judge a thing is about comparing it, and compare and contrast give it a meaning. So that is what ideological postmodernism was moving towards. And that is what we will discuss further in the upcoming lecture. Thank you.